Hello chess friends and welcome to Ozaro's chess channel and welcome to my Basics in Chess series. So in this series we see opening principles, middle game strategy and middle game planning, and of course the endgame strategy. Today I continue with my series with this connection of the opening, middle game and the end game, and today I wanted to show you also an instructive game which has very good elements of a chess game. So it has good opening principles, good middle game strategies and good end game strategies, and it's the game played by Boris Chatalbashev against Giuseppe Voltolini. Chatalbashev here with the white pieces, and I think this is again a very nice game in which we can see very nice elements of a chess game. And of course I wanted only to show you these games that are really understandable for all of us, and you see these games, although they are in international master or grandmaster level, I think we can handle them all. So let's see now this game. Here Boris Chatalbashev with the white pieces. He played here d4, knight on f6, knight on f3. We have here c5, and okay, we have here now this sort of Benoni style, and here my recommendation is also to play the move d5. This is now the principle of gaining space. You see we have occupied our opponent's half of the board, so when we can do that, you see of course we can support this d5 pawn with the move knight on c3, and after that maybe with move this e4. So this the gaining space idea is always important in a chess game, so I think this d5 is better than just to take this d takes c5. So here Voltolini played g6, knight on c3, we have bishop on g7, and now e4. Here we have d6, and now bishop on e2. And let's now remind us again about this opening principles. So of course you should develop your pieces, you should try to castle and move the queen from the first rank, try to connect your rooks, and of course try move your queen with some meaning. Of course you don't want to play early with your queen in an opening, and when you move the queen, try to do it with some impact, of course. So let's see now the continuation. Here castling was played by black, and now castling by white. And here we have a so-called dynamic pawn structure in the center. So you see this e5 move is possible. So the position is really complex, although you are maybe familiar with the ideas how to play against the Benoni, but I just wanted to realize that this is a so-called dynamic pawn structure because the movement is possible here with moves c4, and white has possibilities to play the move e5. And here black tries a positional idea. He plays the move e5. And whenever the pawn structures change, you should ask yourself again these two questions. You see, you should try to read the position. So when we're reading the position, of course, I'm pointing you again out. We want to know what kind of a center do we have and what kind of a pawn structure do we have. So you see, let's see now the pawn structure in the center. I hope you realize that we have here now a really close position, and while having a close position, you see that the position changed bit from a dynamic position into a closed one. So you see we have now sort of a different position, and of course we want to search for weaknesses in your opponent's position. So let's now remind us again what can be the possible weaknesses in your opponent's position. When we look at black's position here, you see we cannot talk here about some maybe lack of development. We cannot talk about the king in the center. We can also not talk about an endangered king after castling, and well, black has also another lack of space. And the most important thing that I wanted to realize, that black has not a weak pawn or a weak square. So how should you play in these close positions? So there is this basic principle also. It's the principle of this favorable trades of pieces. So see, now we have this close position, and of course in the close position knights are better, and in open positions of course the bishops are better. So now we search for our favorable trades of pieces here. So see, we have here now the possibility to play a sort of a positional pin, because we cannot create here now immediately some weak squares or weak pawns. We have to search for this favorable trade of piece. So here Chatalbashev played a very strong move. It's really a positional idea. Here he played bishop on g5, and he doesn't mind to trade off even this bishop for this knight on f6, because you see we have a close position, and of course in this close position the knights are better, because when we take here the knight on f6, maybe after bishop takes on f6, or maybe the queen on f6, well, black will continue the game with this bad bishop, which will be blocked out by its own pawns here on d6 and e5. And that's all possible because we managed to read our own position. And you see, we have to understand when the position in the center has changed, how we should approach and how we should continue in the game. So here h6 was played, and here bishop on h4. This g5 idea doesn't bring so much for black, because in this sort of setups with d6 and e5, in this so-called King's Indian setups, well, black would try maybe this f5 idea, and with this g5 move he doesn't have any more support with this g6, so he wants to have this flexibility with g6, and then after that f5, which will really, after maybe e takes f5, then g takes f5, will then black will have these two connected pawns in the center and try to kick away your minor pieces. So okay, still we have now also very nice positional game here by white. He has also the pinning situation here, so of course we are staying with this dynamic position, and now a6 was played. Okay, when this a6 move is of course a preparation of the move b5, and of course white played here the move a4, but this a4 move, not that it's only stopping this b5, it's sort of a positional move, because again I'm pointing you out, we want the position to remain closed here, because in a couple of moves you'll see white will give up his bishop for the knight, and of course we want to have this close position in which of course knights are better, and try to continue the game like that. So bishop on g4 was played, and let's now again remind us of this opening principles. You see, I hope you realize that white hasn't played with the queen so far, and it's perfectly fine in this position that he hasn't done it. And now again, when we are reading this, when we are reading our position, you see we have here these two pawns on this like squares, and now we have such here a position, sort of positional pin here by black. And I hope you realize that we don't mind here a trade of this like square bishops, because our like square bishop on e2 is also not good, because it's blocked out by our own pawns. So we don't mind here to trade off this like square bishops. That's why here Chatalbashev played knight on d2, and we have here bishop on e2, and now queen on e2, and now the queen gets out like we wanted to. The queen gets out, and with the meaning the queen got out with a really nice tempo. And now we have finished here this 3 stages of an opening. We played with all of our pieces, we have castled, and we have moved the queen from the first rank and connected the rooks. So Chatalbashev here played a very nice game, I think, and I think you can all understand it. So let's see now the continuation here. Knight from b to d7 was played, and now white has this very nice square here for the knight, c4. So queen on e7 was played. Now a5, creating even a better blockade here. You see, this blockade system here by white is perfectly fine, because you don't want this position to get opened, and you don't want it to get opened for this bishop. If this bishop comes into the game, of course it will be really deadly for you. So here rook from a to b8 was played, and now rook from a to b1. Now we are preparing of course, to move b4. We want to now open here the queen side because black will maybe try again his ideas with f5, but he has to prepare it with moves as maybe queen on e8, and then after that maybe knight on h2, f5. So many moves has to be played here, by black, and this has to be prepared. Now rook from f to c8 was played, and now knight on a4. This knight on a4 is the idea when we play the move b4, and then after that maybe b takes c5. When the knight comes here on c5, then we can capture here with the knight on c5. So we don't want to the knight to be fixed here on the c5, because this will really close the position here on the queen side. Here we have queen on f8, and now b4. C takes b4, rook takes on b4, and now knight on c5. Bishop takes on f6. Now finally we have this positional idea, bishop on f6, and let's now evaluate the position. You see this rook, these two knights and the queen are really pointing here on the queen side. Meanwhile, I hope you realize black has really this bad bishop situation here, and that was all possible because we read the position well in the beginning. We understood that in this position the knights could be better. And let's see now the continuation. Knight from c to b6 was played, knight takes on a4, rook takes on a4, rook on c7, and now we don't mind to get off, trade off some more pieces, because we want to go here into an endgame in which black will, as I said, continue this game with this bad bishop. So here rook on c4, queen on e8, we have rook on b1, bishop on g5, we have g3, h5, and now h4, kicking away the bishop. We don't want the bishop to come into the game, as I said. Here we have h6, and now king on g2. This is a very nice move, it's preventing here the queen to go, the black's queen maybe try to infiltrate in the position with the move queen on h3, and king on g2 is perfectly fine here. Queen on e7, now rook on b4, rook on f8, now rook takes on c7, queen takes on c7, and now rook on c4. You see, we are simply playing around this positional advantage that we have created here. We fix the knight on the 6th rank, and of course we can play around this knight. And I've also created this middle game in my middle game strategy videos, this importance to fix your knight on the 6th rank. So here we have queen on e7, queen on f3, f5. Now of course e takes f5, because if g takes f5, then of course we can take the pawn h5, rook on a5, and now rook on c8 with this in between check, king on h7, and now queen on e4. This is also now a sort of a blocking system here by by white. We don't want to we are not allowing black to play the move e4, which will then of course liberate the bishop here, and black will have this very nice diagonal for the bishop. So here we simply play for the blockade. Rook on f7, f3, bishop on d2, and now very strong move c3, also closing down this bishop. So here bishop on c1, knight on c4. You see this bishop is desperately trying to go somehow into the game. Meanwhile, of course, we can play freely with our knight. Queen on d7, now we have rook on b8, bishop on h6, rook on a8, bishop on f8. You see black doesn't know what to do with this bishop. Queen on b1, bishop on h6, knight on b6 again, queen on e7, and now queen on d3. Bishop on c1 again. Black is trying this bishop moves, c4, getting out of the way. As I also explained in my middle game strategies, one of the strategies against the bishop can be just to go out of the way of the bishop, so put all of your pawns on this opposite Carol squares. King on g7, and now c5. This is now a very important pawn breakthrough. Of course, we want to create a passed pawn situation. If d takes c5, then we have d6, and after that d7 and d8, which cannot be preventable. Black will lose at least a piece here in after d takes c5. So g5 was played. Now c takes d6, queen takes on d6, and now rook on c8. Bishop on b2. h takes g5, and now bishop on d4. Now white plays a very strong move, f4, queen on b4, and now after f5, in this position, black resigned because there's no way to prevent. Maybe after a couple of checks you can play here king on h3, and black cannot create any more checks. Meanwhile, you have the possibility to play the very strong move f6, and it would be deadly for black here. So I hope you realize these ideas in these closed games. After this knight on c4, you see we don't mind here to trade off this bishop for the knight on f6, because we have really this closed position, and but you don't want also to get this position too closed, because you have to move and open some files, because if the position gets too closed, of course you'll play simply for a draw. Here Chatalbashev finds this idea to play and try to open the b file with the move b4, which was I think a very strong idea. And you see black didn't have any counterplay. He played many moves with the bishop, and he was desperately trying to get it into the game, but without some impacts. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Meanwhile, you can also watch my other middle game strategies, opening principles, and endgame strategies from my Basics in Chess series, and you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzle series, in which I show you all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen in a chess game. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Thanks you for watching, and chess is the best, of course.